frankly, if it is anti-national to fight for the poor, if it's anti-national to fight bulldozer politics, well, communists are anti-national then. Where every single event which unites people is used now by them to divide people, ideologically or practically, to fight back the BJP politics. There Congress is saying, why you're not having environment impact assessment? Here if we say, at least let us have the assessment so we'll know. On every important issue of Kerala, it is siding with the BJP and the central government. Are you people have got the vote of Kerala people, na? But you don't have feeling even for Kerala, who's funding the BJP, and Kerala is also a lighthouse in the darkness.
Namaskaram, Samayam Malayalam ella priyapetta പ്രേക്ഷകർക്കും മറ്റൊരു ഇന്റർവ്യൂയിലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം. ഒരുപക്ഷേ മുഖവുരകളൊന്നും ആവശ്യമില്ലാത്ത ഇന്ത്യൻ ദേശീയ രാഷ്ട്രീയത്തിൽ ഇപ്പോൾ ഏറെ ചർച്ച ചെയ്യപ്പെടുന്ന ഒരു പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട വ്യക്തിയാണ് നമ്മളോടൊപ്പം എന്നുള്ളത്. CPIM പോളിറ്റ് ബ്യൂറോ അംഗമായിട്ടുള്ള കോമ്രേഡ് ബൃന്ദ കരാട്ടാണ്. ബൃന്ദ കരാട്ടിനെ സമയം മലയാളത്തിലേക്ക് ഏറെ സ്നേഹത്തോടെ സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യുന്നു. വെൽക്കം ടു സമയം മലയാളം. Okay, let's start from the recent JCB or bulldozing politics. You were very famous in the last week when you go to Jahanpur-Giri and you stood in front of that bulldozer against that divisive politics played by the Delhi Municipal Corporation, especially on the BJP governed state. So how do you recollect that day or the experience on that day?
Frankly, we have been totally against illegal demolitions, and we have been fighting it not only in Delhi but all over India. And communists have been fighting demolition injustice, because who is being demolished? It's the poor who are literally being demolished. Once you demolish their livelihoods, their homes, their mega property, you're demolishing the poor. So we have always fought against it. That day it so happened that in the fight, because it was representing not just a machine, bulldozer politics represents something much more. It represents a toxic ideology of the Sangh Parivar, of Hindutva. It represents an anti-poor policy, and it represents a political strategy of the BJP. So naturally, when that happened after Khargon, what happened in Madhya Pradesh, and when the Delhi BJP president openly gave a threat that we are bringing Madhya Pradesh bulldozer to Delhi, and he, violating all norms and forms and laws and constitutional guarantees, they brought the bulldozer, that had a different context, and the media happened to be there. So it got coverage. But what was important was, they continued to bulldoze even after 2 hours of the Supreme Court order. I mean, that is, how can you accept that? That's total contempt of court. So I was there, my comrades were there, and obviously we had to go and stop the bulldozer. Already so much damage had been done. Around 120 families. We've done a detailed survey now. And around 120 families are very badly affected. It would have increased to at least 100 or so more.
Okay. Before that, this incident happened in Jahanpur-Giri. There was a procession related to Ram Navami. And when we look to the processions of festivals in recent India, we can see that apart from a unity or some kind of love and sharing, it's changing. The attitudes of the processions or the festivals is changing. And do you believe that there is a cultural saffronization going on in India?
It's a matter of so much regret. You are weaponizing religious festivals. You are changing the nature and culture of that festival, and you are trying to fit it into a narrow framework as a political weapon in the political strategy of division on communal lines. I mean, I remember when I was a child, whether it was Eid or whether it was Holi, whether it was Christmas, whether the different Sikh festivals which are, we all enjoyed it together. And we used to look forward to it. So we could have as many festivals and as many celebrations together. But today the BJP RSS has reached a position where every single event which unites people is used now by them to divide people. And I think that is what affects not just believers. Of course, believers, genuine believers are affected even in Jahangirpuri.
Yeah.
They told us that we have never seen anything like this. Why did it happen? Ordinary folk, large numbers of people. But if there is an aggressive minority and it has the backing of the state,
Yeah.
that is the difference. Backing of state power.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But while we go to Rajasthan, there is a similar scenario there. If we look into the Delhi politics or this bulldozer politics there, we are seeing picture of Ravi and Usman, nearby shops, sitting together. They were working together before the procession, and when the procession is over, they have one have lost everything, and the next door sitting person, Ravi is sitting without any kind of bothering, and it's in Rajasthan where Congress is having a power. So, do you think that the opposition, the so-called opposition in the nation, is becoming weaker and weaker every day, or the Congress is leading, or they are on the pathway to the Hindutva politics raised by BJP?
The Congress is not in a position now to really ideologically or practically to fight back the BJP politics, because they are being weakened. So many defections without any strong ideological anchor. If you try and take soft Hindutva politics as a strategy, it only strengthens Hindutva politics. There can be no such thing as soft Hindutva politics. Ultimately, unless you are aggressive in defending secular values, you can't fight Hindutva politics. I make a distinction between fighting Hindutva politics with secular politics. I don't believe that any type of fundamentalist politics today can ever succeed, whether it is Hindutva soft politics, which some people are using today, some leaders, some parties, or fundamentalist forces in different religions using believers in Islam who are outraged, who are fearful, who are insecure, who are frustrated, who are unable to find a path forward. And you utilize that, you know, the mixture of so many feelings of a minority person in India today, and you utilize that for fundamentalist politics of a different kind. That can never fight Hindutva. It can only strengthen Hindutva. I mean, I think Nehru was so correct when he said, don't equate majoritarian and minority fundamentalism. Majoritarian fundamentalism appears as nationalism. They claim the cloak of nationalism. That exactly is what the BJP is doing. So that is undoubtedly the biggest danger, which has no equal. But you cannot fight that danger unless you are secular, you are democratic, and you are committed to the poor. At least that's what we as communists believe.
Yeah.
Other parties obviously have their own understanding.
Yeah. And in the recent days, news headlines over India, we are discussing, or the Congress is discussing about a agent who is going to save them from this political recession or something like that. Do you believe that somebody like Prashant Kishore or some other person can save this Congress from the state what they are being?
I'm frankly not at all either qualified or inclined to comment on any other party's political strategy. If I look at my own party and I look at the left and I see the challenges before us, our main focus, which we recently discussed, in our 23rd Party National Congress is precisely the need to strengthen our own base, to strengthen our own links with the people, and I think most importantly, our identity, our communist identity. There are so many friends and advisors who say, why are you so dogmatic about your ideology? But what is being proved today? It is this ideology which the BJP and its leaders itself sees as a challenge. Why did the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, say communists are only in Kerala as far as governments are concerned, but it is their ideology which is a threat? Of course, he called us anti-national. So I, frankly, if it is anti-national to fight for the poor, if it's anti-national to fight bulldozer politics, well, communists are anti-national then.
The party congress discussed about the base, which and I think that the news leads were the party is facing a challenge in this region India after its formation, and this time has we party need more care and more stronghold work in the ground level or the block level committees or the local committees. So and in the other hand, CPIM is conducting large protests, including Kisan long marches. But when it comes to the parliamentary politics, even after the Kisan long march, the CPIM can't get that result in that parliamentary phase or in the scenario, or you can't achieve votes from that. Do you believe that these protests will work for that parliamentary politics, or it is for that right to be achieved? It is only for that rights to be achieved, or is it for that parliamentary gain?
Well, there are 2 or 3 very important points you've raised. The first is the position of our party and the weakening of our mass base. And I must tell you, well, it is absolutely correct that we had a detailed discussion about this in the party conference. It was also in a specific context of West Bengal and Tripura, in which we had run governments, and our mass base getting weakened. The context was the tremendous violence our cadre have faced. You know, people outside these 2 states who see that we have lost our votes, and in Bengal we could not win a single seat, they see that. But what they don't see or they don't consider is that the red flag is very much there in Bengal at a time when, from extreme right to extreme left, a coalition had formed to attack the CPIM and the left-front government at the time, and they succeeded. Of course, we had our own weaknesses, which I don't want to paper over at all, because as communists we can't afford to, na? Who will we be fooling? But that coalition, it succeeded. And after that, our party was under the most severe attack. And we lost our cadre, lakhs were foisted with false cases. Over 100,000 communist cadre were driven out of their homes violently, coercively. Women were threatened openly with rape if they supported the CPIM. And the panchayat elections, the rural elections, we weren't even allowed to file nomination. This is the context. So we fought back. We fought back to save our party. And I think today, as can be seen, even if you don't have a direct one-to-one ratio between the fight back and results, election results, you do see a change in the situation. Confidence in our party growing among the people, and our party making that 24/7 effort to be right there with the people. So that's one thing. And Tripura, it's a totally different aspect because of the socio-economic demographics of Tripura, the sensitivity of a border state where these people are trying to divide people on ethnic lines, just as what happened in Assam, and they use that. But they are fighting back. the struggle and the gap between the struggle, I don't think you can ever expect such a huge mass struggle to translate into votes. And if that was the aim of the CPM, then we wouldn't be able to call ourselves communists, in the sense our fight for the Kisans was a fight of a class struggle against corporate politics in agriculture and the corporatization of agriculture. So there's no issue of our ever thinking, oh, this is going to translate into votes for us. No, not at all. But there is an issue that when you have such class and mass struggles, the political consciousness of the basic classes whom we are organizing, naturally, if that does not increase, I'm not talking about votes, I'm talking about their political consciousness, which may or may not translate into a vote for you, but certainly it can never translate into a vote for the ruling classes. So, how to do that? It is a problem, I can tell you, especially because now in bourgeois parliamentary politics, my God, the kind of money. Now, just now, Jharkhand Panchayat elections are. Our comrades call me up, all poor tribal comrades, wonderful, fighting, militant. They said, comrade, what are we going to do? Just in the first stage, they spent 1.5 lakh rupees. Now, you know, this is something which it's really difficult. So I think if communists, you know, have to make a mark, and obviously we are in parliamentary politics, in the sense, class, mass struggle, and certainly we participate in elections and we think it's a very important political process. But I mean, the kind of money power and the subversion of electoral democracy, I think what we really need to fight for together all over India is for electoral reforms to make it an equal playing field. Otherwise, what will you do? You have electoral bonds. They are getting every single corporate to give them money. They have a quid pro quo with them in their policies. Nobody knows, the country doesn't know who's funding the BJP because they've got this bogus thing called electoral bonds, and unfortunately Supreme Court is just sitting on that case.
Yeah.
And I think they're not going to, I mean, will they do that case before 2024? I don't know.
Okay, as we were talking about that class struggle, recently or for the past 10 years or from 2014 itself, the identity politics in India, was getting more rage in India. And young leaders like Jignesh Mehwani on the campuses from Rohit Vemula and Chandrasekhar Azad, like that, people are coming. So the criticism raised by these identity politics or that Dalit politics talking people or the activists of that politics, they are criticizing CPM, that CPM is only addressing in the national level the class politics. It's not addressing the caste politics and the caste discriminations or the caste violations, right violations going on even in Kerala, where it has a stronghold and a reformation and renaissance background. So how, as a CPM Politburo member, how you are addressing that caste issue, or what CPM is has a response or a reply for that criticism?
No, I am very aware of that criticism. I'm working with Adivasis myself and also with oppressed castes and against untouchability in the caste system. And we consider the opinions very seriously because I believe the natural allies of the left are movements who represent the Dalits, Adivasis, poor minority communities, women. I think the left and them are politically natural allies. And there are barriers, certainly, which could have some basis in reality, or could be a more perceived understanding of narrow interpretation of Marxism being only class and not taking social aspects like the caste system into account. But I think that would be a bit unfair to communists. After all, our movement was born in the anti-caste struggle.
Yeah.
Here in Kerala, it was born in the anti-caste struggle. It's our leaders who fought caste. Our first General Secretary, P. Sundaraya, who built that anti-caste movement in Andhra Pradesh. So there is a history of communists fighting caste. There could be a mechanical interpretation of what class is among certain sections of the left. That automatically, if you fight a class struggle, automatically untouchability and Dalit issues will be solved, which is very far from the truth. And why is it far from the truth? Because capitalism in India has grown in coexistence and utilizing, not only coexisting, but co-opting the caste system. Today a Dalit worker doing the same work as a non-Dalit worker in many jobs in rural India gets a much lower wage. Dalit women get the lowest wage ever, as do Adivasis. Today Dalits are the largest block of landless. Why? Because a caste system still exists where Dalits can only be propertyless. That's Manuvad, that's Manusmriti. That's what Hindutva is, Manuvad and Manusmriti. So how to build these alliances? I believe that there is a material base for identity politics, because after all, it's a reality that today Dalits, however modern so-called Indian society is, caste system is there. A woman is still walking 7 steps behind a man, at least in his mind, if not over the feras. And the same is a caste system. So how do you deal with it? First you have to address that you cannot have unity of the working classes without specifically building within that unity the specific aspects of Dalit oppression, exploitation. Adivasi oppression and exploitation. As Adivasis, the class movement has to recognize that the basic classes who are in the oppressed caste, untouchable world. I mean, obviously, how can you think of having a working class revolution for socialism if you think that's all going to automatically go away? And we don't. The CPIM is working very hard towards this. Our governments are working towards this. Our left-run government in both Tripura and Bengal have the best record on this. And in Kerala, the caste, of course I won't say it's only the communists, the social reform movement, but we have never allowed it to be compromised. We have never allowed it to be mimicked by the middle caste, like it is in Uttar Pradesh, where they become the new oppressors. So those are important contributions of the communists. I don't say that, there are not gaps, but I do believe we must work, at least we do, with the understanding that movements against the caste system are allies and must be looked at as allies.
Okay. When the CPIM is criticized, in the recent days, the criticism is by the comparison of Kerala and the policies taken by the CPIM on the national level. In Kerala, CPIM has a different policy, and in national level, CPIM has a different policy. That was what the criticizers are criticizing about CPIM. They criticize the Chief Minister of Kerala, Mr. Brinda Karat, on stand on K-Rail. And they criticized the General Secretary of the party, Sitaram, on the national policy about development. And they criticized that on one hand, CPIM is resisting the developing activities going on in the northern states regarding the speed train projects or the high-speed rail projects. CPIM is opposing that. And in Kerala, CPIM led LDF, that government is planning for the K-Rail or semi-high speed or high speed rail transports. And they criticize the CPIM has two kind of decisions or policies on this development process or development programs. And how do you react to that?
Well, it was discussed and in our party national conference, and unanimously there was not one single state delegation which did not stand on that stage and congratulate and greet the LDF government of Kerala under the leadership of Comrade Pinarayi. Not one. Why? They have no idea what people are facing, people who make this criticism outside. The starvation, the hunger, the poverty, the closing of public sector units, the destruction of national assets, massive unemployment which is not recognized even as being unemployment, the subversion of every single institution. Kerala is an island in that sense, and Kerala is also a lighthouse in the darkness. I'm telling you. And we are taking the Kerala experience. What is that experience? The Kerala experience of fighting the communal politics, Kerala experience of fighting neoliberal policies of privatization, liberalization, Kerala experience of using its limited resources when a centre is bulldozing rights of the states and snatching their money to make it people-centric. We are taking that message all over India. Every communist, every CPIM member is proud of Kerala. As far as K-Rail is concerned, it is no comparison with what our fight is. Now, for example, right now, there are movements of Adivasis, their land is being taken away without the due process of anything. Bulldozing. No reference to the law. No reference to what the people want or need or what they require as alternatives. Nothing. Right now in Bengal, a coal mine which is going to wreak disaster there, in which nobody even knows what coal and where that coal is, because that, on the one hand you're talking about green energy, on the other hand you're doing this. So we fight that. Here in Kerala, our understanding is, obviously when land is concerned, there will always be, there must be, and we appreciate, we're sensitive to, we're conscious of the issue of land. We can never ride roughshod over it, never. And one very important line in our vision document which I have read is, only people's trust can make a project successful. That is our approach. So all this thing about K-Rail, even the environment impact assessment is not done.
Yeah.
In all BJP states, they are doing it without environment impact assessment. Their Congress is saying, why you're not having environment impact assessment? Here, if we say, at least let us have the assessment so we'll know. Unless you have concrete knowledge and data as to what it is, how can you assume? Environment impact assessment doesn't mean that you're going to 100% go ahead if the environment impact assessment is telling you something else. But you don't want to do that? You don't want any surveys? You yourself don't want due process of law. What is to be done? As far as we are concerned, if something helps the development of Kerala, to bring better development to Kerala, while our central point of protecting people's interests and taking people's mandate in this, what can be done about such an opposition? I don't know, frankly. I think what Comrade Pinarayi has said is that the people are our main concern. The UDF and all its friends and allies and BJP and UDF coming together on this, I think that has its own message which people will understand. But yes, it's true that today the government is being targeted on it. But since we are only interested in the interests of people being protected in the development process, we have to see how this can be taken forward with people's trust.
When E.P. Jayarajan, he became the LDF convener of Kerala last week, while A. Vijayaraghavan was opted as a CC member. And he after he take that position, the main point he was made was CPIM will have open mind towards Indian Union Muslim League, and if it is ready to join us, we will have an open mind or open policy for that.
No, as far as I know, he said that was not what he meant at all.
So
I think he made it very clear.
Yeah, my question is that
that's the end of the matter.
But the question is
when
that
he himself did not mean it, or he had a different intention, or whatever it may have been.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not talking about that clarity. If such a situation is emerging,
There's no question of any such thing. Absolutely none. There's no discussion in the party on it at all. The UDF as a whole, right now, on every important issue of Kerala, it is siding with the BJP and the central government. It's a shame that today, when Kerala is being denied its resources, which is its right, we were not elected into parliament in the last elections. UDF has 19 MPs. A single voice raised for Kerala. They're looting Kerala. What did the Prime Minister say day before yesterday? He insulted Kerala.
yeah.
How he insulted Kerala? But did you hear a single Congress MP? I'm not saying Congress party nationally, whatever they do, let them do. You people have got the vote of Kerala people, na? You've got people's vote from this state which is being destroyed and exploited by the central government. But you don't have feeling even for Kerala. You have only hatred for CPM or for LDF. Your opposition to LDF overrides your love for Kerala. That is what the headline of this approach of UDF is. I have not heard a single UDF partner, coming out against this policy. Let them come out against it. Why? Who's stopping them? So, these people, that politics, where they are reaching, that what our Kerala Pradesh President says in the morning, then BJP President will say it in the evening. What he says in the evening, the other gentleman will say in the morning. In the afternoon, the media will take it up. This sort of thing will not help Kerala.
And finally, you are also the leader of the All India Democratic Women's Association, or the women wing of CPIM. And throughout these years, we have progressed from what we were. And even in Kerala, we have more progression than the other states. And still we are talking about representation, women representation. But don't you think that it's time to call for equal representation or equality, where one member will be a woman and the rest will be, that is the representation policy.
You see, that happens in that if you change the electoral system and you have an electoral system based on proportional representation, then every party has a list. And then every second person or every third person can be a woman. When you have a different electoral system. In a first past the post list, you can only ensure it through reservation. That's what will happen in Panchayat system. Now 50%. So women are there doing brilliantly.
Yeah, of course, but in the organizational setup...
organization, now we are making changes because we have not at all, for the last so many years, there's been a big, women have raised their voices, party leaders have supported it, and now there's an amendment to our constitution which reflects that concern to say the central committee will decide a minimum number of women who have to be there. So now we are going to decide that, and every state committee has to decide it. And also, at least you have to recruit minimum, ensure at least 25% women in the party, because it's so difficult. And you ask women to do all the domestic work, they do all the family work, they are also working, they are also in demonstrations, and yet they are not in the party. Why? So, cultures in politics. One is representation, including in my party. There's also a male dominant culture which is so dismissive of women's work. And I think we also need to talk about, when our manifesto talked about smart kitchens, I was very happy, but I said, a smart kitchen cannot come only through technology. A smart kitchen has to come when the man is in the kitchen too. Yeah. You have to share domestic work if you want more women in politics. You have to share family care if you want more women in politics. You have to do that. And once you do that, cultures change.
Yeah. So, how CPM is foreseeing the future or the coming, where BJP is saying that we are going to rule the next 5 years too, then there will be no election for the rest of the 50 years. They are declaring that openly. So, how CPM is going to resist that? And
we have to have a very serious multi-strategy for that. As I said, the first is the communists fight back by the side of the people. We are communists. Our creed is to be with the people, to defend them, to fight them. So that's one basic level of class and mass struggle. But that has to be combined with an ideological struggle which reaches out to people, to a much, much, much wider section of people than we are presently reaching out to. Our trade union has a wonderful slogan, a very inspiring slogan, reach to the unreached. That is the CI2 slogan. I mean, it's for the trade union, reach to the unreached. But quite frankly, in politics, there are millions who are unreached. That's what communists have to be doing. And along with that, the cultural sphere, the intellectual sphere. In every single area, there are Indians who are patriots, who want the platform to fight back. They may not want to join CPM. They may have very big differences with the CPM. But they want to work with a force which is prepared to unite against this BJP bulldozer. It's not a machine, this bulldozer, as I said. It's something much more. It's something which is there to bulldoze the India we love and we know. So every patriot today, so that's our aim. How to reach out, how to put the alternative politics. Without alternative politics, you go on cursing somebody, उसमें क्या फर्क पड़ता है? Everybody gets a new abuse, every day. The wonderful social media galis which the BJP lion manufacturing machine produces every day. You can't compete with that, and why should we? We're not that kind of people. But we can project an alternative politics. I think that's our job. I think it's cut out for us.
Okay. I thank you for spending this time and talking about various topics related to the national politics and regional politics.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, ma'am. And we wish all the best for the future protests.
Thank you.